Yesterday I read the final chapters of A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and I reached the end, and there were some elements that I didn't like. The setting was a bit too cozy for me, and there was nothing so deep about the personalities and the actions that these characters were having. Also, some elements that I liked. There was a little girl who had some sort of illness, and she wasn't portrayed as a different kind of person that everybody should adjust to. They included the little girl in everything that they did. Fortunately, the girl learned to live with them, get used to the normals of those people. Also, another element that I liked was, in the end, the main character was able to reach what she wanted. Since the very beginning of the book, she had to lose something else to reach this. I liked how the expectations of the main character and the narrator weren't unrealistic, and it was an enjoyable read for me, and I gave it 4 stars because it wasn't a life-changing book for me. And I had a brainstorm last night about what to read next, and I decided that I was in the mood for a deeper, darker book, and I started reading Vita Nostra last night. There were some controversial comments about this book as to the translation to English, because people say that, Russian speaking people say that the translation is completely wrong, especially the name of the main character. She's called Sasha, but she's not called Sasha in the original one. And I think translation is one of the most important elements that makes a book readable or not. Previously, I stopped reading some books just because of the translation being a mess. I can easily understand this. Some sentences don't feel natural. It's been a long time since I read any book translated to English, but I was sure I would understand if this was completely messed up. Also, this is the first book that I'm reading translated from Russian. This is gonna be a good chance to see what Russian people are writing about. Now I'm closer to 10% mark of the book, and I think the lives and daily habits of Russian people feel very close to my culture. They even mentioned my country in the book. When she was swimming in the sea, she swam until the point where she's allowed to, and she said she didn't want to stop swimming. She could swim until she reaches Turkey. It made me realize how close we are actually. There's no other continent between us. and we're just on the opposite sides of Black Sea with Russian people. I like how every culture is very similar to one another when you find these similar aspects. I'm reading Vita Nostra until 20 or 25% to decide if I'm gonna keep reading it, and so far it's readable. It's highly possible that I'm gonna finish this book, but I don't know when, and I want to finish this one until the end of August before the school starts, so that I don't have to deal with it, because I still think it is a book that I need to deal with. Yesterday I finished Vita Nostra. It was a very different experience for me. I felt every fear, every different emotion that Sasha was feeling. And let me tell you about what exactly happens in the book. There's a girl called Sasha, and one day when she is on summer holiday, she encounters a strange man, and this man gives her some tasks that are very different, but these tasks require her to gather all of the discipline that she can, and she accomplishes these tasks, and after she finishes them, she vomits some golden coins. I don't know what these coins have to do with this storyline. The man pressures her to enroll into a different kind of school, different institute. In this institute, these students learn about these subjects that they have never encountered in their lives. The lessons, the texts in the textbooks seem incomprehensible to Sasha at first. It's like letters are written one after another, but the words make no sense. So after a while, as Sasha reads them and gets used to them, the reality around her starts to bend. These topics, these subjects are beyond the human understanding, and eventually she starts making sense of these nonsense words. As the education in that school goes on, Sasha also turns into something different. She is no longer a human. First of all, I can say that there are 5 main themes of the book. The first one being transformation and becoming. The novel is about change, but it is not in a physical form. It is more on the mind level, and it's also about expanding the capacities of human mind. And the thing that enables Sasha to transform into something is learning. She transforms thanks to the learning process that she has. The second theme I want to mention is knowledge as power, and sometimes it is seen as a burden. In this story, we see that knowledge is not based on the memorized facts, and it's about adding some things to your personality and changing depending on this. And with every lesson that Sasha learns in that school, she has to change some aspects of herself. And another theme is control and freedom. There are very strict rules in the school, and there's also punishment, and these punishments are not usual. They punish you by hurting people that you love. And this is what those students want the least, and this is how they make these students obey the rules. You're not supposed to talk about the things that you're learning after a while. Everyone's syllabus is different based on what they are meant to be in this transformation. And after surpassing a certain part of the education, you are actually freer. So if you can learn the amount that is required, I mean, it's so hard to reach that point, but after that point, you are now freer. At a certain point, Sasha got a new apartment in which she can live alone and she can do whatever she wants to do. A while in that education, you can gain that level of freedom. Then there's language and reality. This education is highly rotating about language. So this education was what was transforming Sasha. So I can say that language is what shapes people. And language shaping the reality seems most when Sasha was reading these nonsense texts in her textbooks. Some letters were written, but it makes no sense. But language is not always about the physical level. It's not about what you see, but it's more about the process of your thoughts. When you listen to a language that you don't speak, sometimes you understand the emotion of the speaker or the intention of them. So we see that language is something universal. It's not special to some certain group of people. And the last thing regarding the themes of the book that I want to say is the atmosphere. It is a dark academia setting. There is a distant school far away in the countryside, but this is not a completely dark academia book. It also has some elements of surrealism in it, because most of the time when Sasha tells you about the day that she was having, it's more like a fever dream. And I really love this kind of settings, especially when I read The Starless Sea. It was very similar to this one. The next point that I want to touch upon is the literary and philosophical influences on this book. As I've said before, I've never read Russian books in the past, but when I listened to other people who read them, I imagined some kind of tormented world. And when I visited some countries with Soviet influence on them, that's how I felt too. And I had a general understanding of what Soviet times were like and the influence of those times on the contemporary world. And the learning process and the teaching process of this school really reflects that Soviet influence. They are actually tormenting those students to understand these nonsense works, and also they make the students question their own existence, like, what am I? Or what am I living? Or what am I to other people? Also, I don't want to spoil some important parts of the book if you're planning to read it, but the language, the words have a very important influence on these students, and also the parts of speech are very important in this book. It is reflected in a way very similar to zodiac signs. The ending is happy in a way, because now Sasha is more powerful and she can even fly. But it is also sad because she's not herself anymore. Actually, this end decision is completely based on the ideas of the reader. And I think that's all that I have to say about this book. Let me know in the comment section below if you read this book. before. Thanks for watching my video. I really appreciate the support that you give me by watching my videos and subscribing to my channel. And I will see you in the next one.